What's up YouTube? Mike here with Grinding Gears Garage. Getting ready to do a quick little video on our Yamaha Raptor. We just finished installing our new top end that we finished rebuilding. We did new valve seals, new head gaskets, all the gaskets in the top end. So we're going to pull everything apart and check our valve clearances. Show you guys how to set them real quick. We're also going to install new head bolts. The head bolts on this Raptor are torque to yield. So they're pretty much only good for one torquing, and then once you unbolt them, you need to get new head bolts. So we're going to show you guys how to do that, what we torque them to. But follow along and we'll show you guys how to set your valve lash. So first things first, we got to break the four-wheeler down. You're going to want to take your seat off, which is held in with the latch underneath. You can keep your rear plastics on. Ours are off for the rebuild, but the seat comes off first. Then you're going to take your nose piece off. It's held in with two clips. You pull the clip out. We have one sitting right here. You're going to push the clip out with a screwdriver through these slots. Then the whole clip will come out. There's two of them. And then the nose piece pinches down here at the front. Comes out of those two holes. Then it comes right off. Don't forget there is a plug for your neutral switch. It's right there. Unplug. Set that off to the side. Then your front fender comes off. There's two bolts here in the front. The two clips, but that's part of the nose piece. Then you have two bolts right here. There's one here, one on the other side. And then your whole front fender and tank shroud come off of one. You're gonna have to take your gas cap off so you can slide everything off. But it pretty much just pulls right up. Oh, I forgot to. There is, oh, it's the gas tank. Never mind. The whole thing should pick up and slide. You're gonna wanna watch your cables here in the front, that you don't snag them and pull them out. Before you get too far, don't forget there's a plug underneath here. It is gray. That is for your ignition switch. You're going to want to unplug that, and then your whole front fender tank assembly will slide off. All right, next thing is your gas tank. Before you move it, we recommend putting your gas cap back on so you don't spill any fuel when you remove it. There's 4 bolts on the corners, and then there's the 2 up front here. And then before you take your tank off, always remember to turn it to the off position. You have your clip here that holds it onto the carburetor, and then your hose. There is going to be some fuel that comes out, so we recommend putting a rag in between. And this should slide right off. There's going to be a little bit of fuel that comes out, not too much. So let it drain onto the rag. It'll be good. And your tank pulls right off. Your tank's off. You have access to your valve covers, these 2 little caps right here. So we're going to grab some hand tools and we're going to go ahead and pull our valve caps and check our exhaust and intake valve lash. So to pull your valve caps off, we don't have a wrench currently big enough. But what we like to use is either an adjustable or a pair of channel locks. They usually aren't too tight, but they are snug. There is an O-ring on the inside, so if you have an O-ring kit handy, or you're doing a top end rebuild like we did, we recommend replacing those O-rings because they tend to leak. So go ahead and pull these caps off. Take a look at our valves. So to make sure you're at top dead center, you're going to take your 5mm, go ahead and remove your cam gear cover, and we're going to check to see where our timing mark is at. So now that we got everything opened up, I'm going to show you guys how to line up your timing marks. There's a little notch. Oops. There's a little notch on your stay or your flywheel. See that single line right there? It's kind of hard to do. You kind of need a second person. You're going to try and line that up in the case here, but there's another way to do it. If you open up your side cover for your cam gear, you can line up that line with that notch, which symbolizes top dead center. And when you do that, you're then able to start adjusting your valves. Top dead center is where you always want to set your valve clearance. So we're going to get set up and go ahead and adjust our valves. So one awesome thing about the Raptor is on your airbox lid, you actually have your valve lash measurements. They are in millimeters, so you can convert them to inches. Our feeler gauges have the millimeter measurements on them as well, but the intake is 0.05 millimeter to 0.10 millimeter. Then the exhaust is 0.10 millimeter to 0.15 millimeter. You can convert them. We're just going to go ahead and measure it in millimeters. It's easy. So we're going to get all of our tools together and go ahead and adjust the valve lash. So we have two different styles of feeler gauges. We have a straight pair and a pair that's bent into 45. The 45 works great on these motors. The only problem is ours do not come in small enough measurements. It's kind of crappy, but sometimes you can find a set with more measurements in them. The set that we bought did not. We're probably going to buy another pair because sometimes getting into these tight spaces is tough. So we're going to do the intake first for measurement. So we're looking for 0.05 millimeter to 0.10. So we're going to see if we can fall right in the middle. So we want like 0.75 millimeter. 0.075 millimeter, I should say, which is right around 3 thousandths. So we're going to take our feeler gauge. We are going to insert it. See, our valves are a little loose. There's a little bit of play. You should feel some slight drag, and it's pretty loose in there. So what we're going to do is grab our 10 millimeter. We're going to loosen these up. Grab our needle nose, our feeler gauge. We're going to go ahead and reinsert our feeler gauge. We're going to take the little adjusting bolt here. We're going to tighten it down until we feel a good amount of drag. Now it's tough because this feeler gauge is so small and we're putting it at such an angle. But one tip is we bend the feeler gauge because it's so flimsy, and we just pretty much apply pressure backwards like so, and we just try and drag it just so we're getting a more of a straight pull. If you try and just tug on it, just yank back, we've had issues with it binding and you're not getting a true feel for the drag. So you want to make it tight. So what we'd like to do is take it to the point where the drag is almost too much, and we back it off a little bit till there's some drag there, and we grab our 10 millimeter. It's easiest to do with a second set of hands, so you're holding everything still. We're going to take our 10, tighten it up, and then we're going to check it again. Alright, so now we're going to move on to our exhaust side. We're doing about 5 thousandths, which is 0.127 millimeter. It's right in the middle of our spec range, which is 1 to 1.5. So we're kind of in the middle. As you can see, our valves are a little tight. We're actually going to take our 10 millimeter, go ahead and loosen these up. And we're going to see if we can get a little bit better on our valves. We're going to do the same thing and tighten up till we feel the drag. It's nice right about there. Go ahead and snug it down. Now, one thing you want to be careful of when you go to tighten it down, it is going to try and tighten the stud up a little bit. Hence the reason why we're trying to hold it with our needle nose. So we got our 5 thousandths again, and you always want to make sure feeler gauge is clean and free of debris before you're going to check. There we go. we can slide it in there. We got nice drag. So that should be good. Now we're gonna put all of our covers back together, our two valve covers. We're gonna put our cam gear cover back on, the two on the side, put our gas tank back on, and we're gonna fire it up and see what it sounds like. So we put our tank back on. We got just our plastics plugged in, our on-off switch. So we tried to start it, we fired it up, it ran for a minute. We forgot to turn the fuel back on our petcock. So we turned that on, and now it sounds like our starting solenoid's going. So we're gonna get a new starter solenoid and get it here. It did fire up, it ran for a couple seconds and then quit. So we're gonna figure out what's going on. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, please subscribe. Shoot us any questions you got. We'll answer them the best we can. So until next time, thanks for watching.